On my journey, I have learned another lesson. You do not have to fight alone.
Let's do this!
An update for you here at the HGC. David is okay. He's all right. He bumped his head, but he's fine.
Yeah, and that moment when you see Diablo use his lightning breath on a Genji, feels bad, man.
It does feel bad. It does not work out too well. Guys, update for you. Currently, Fnatic is up 1-0 over Tricked Esport, and we will continue this best-of-5 series. Tricked Esport continues to look good. Yeah. They had a great hot streak going on. Now, of course, last week they lost to the Playing Ducks, which was out of nowhere, it felt like. But today they're looking a little bit better. Yeah, they're actually looking really good there so far. I also have another really important update for our viewers, especially if you tuned in at the beginning. I can assure you that we take good care of Tim here because he has another coffee by now. We're good. I promise I'm not going to throw this one away. We're good. We're good. It's hot. It's great. It goes down like smooth liquid. Let's go ahead and figure out a Battleground. He didn't get one. He doesn't deserve one. Wow. We'll go to the Battleground game number 2. Cursed Hollow. This is where we're going here. I'm sorry. We're just going full savage today. It's okay. It's okay. Start HGC off with a full Friday heat. I'll get one later. I had one already. Yeah, you did. You usually have 2 to 3 a day, though, man. You just go hard on coffee. A day? Yeah, you go in. It's just my morning. Yeah. This guy's a coffee fiend. So, Cursed Hollow here with Fnatic. How do you think Tricked Esport handles the pressure that comes from Fnatic? I feel for Tricked, they are currently in a spot where it's a very comfortable position they are in. They need to make sure that they basically have a very good chance to not end up in the Crucible anymore. They are talking about playoffs mostly, about, okay, where can we position ourselves? They have important matches coming up against Fnatic and also against Dignitas. But they're in a situation where they can say, okay, we can finally show that we are really that good, because they had a rough road against Playing Ducks, for example, where they themselves stated, okay, we got outdrafted here. So they are looking really good in scrims as well. But this is for them a situation where I feel they don't have as much pressure as they did before when they go up against direct competitors in the standings. Of course, the wins here are important to them since they would like to be in a good playoff spot. But overall, I don't think the pressure's on them. Yeah, and it's just good to have a good showing against Fnatic. Even if you don't walk away with the victory, a win or 2 in this series could, of course, validate that you are a serious team, a team that can really pull it off in the playoffs. In terms of actual playoffs in the Crucible, BGNS is surely locked in. Synergy is very close. It's like 98% that they're going to be locked in, depending on how the matches go over the next couple weeks. Like, a lot of things have to go right for Synergy not to be able to fall into the Crucible. But yes, the Playing Ducks, Tricked Esports, they could definitely start moving their eyes towards the playoffs and what exactly they want to pull off, prepare for those long days that's going to be happening. Yeah, and especially with the playoff system that we are running, we've been talking about this in previous broadcasts, of course, a bit, but this is really a stepladder system where every single position that you gain in the standings gives you an advantage to make a good showing and qualify for the mid-season brawl. So this is really important to all of them. But Fnatic, as we said before, this is a crucial match for them in the sense that they need to try and make this a 3-0 victory against Tricked, because every single map win at this point matters when you have to compete later on against Dignitas. And we talked already about a potential tie in the standings where then those maps come into question. For now, though, we have once again Cursed Hollow, and the first thing that Tricked does is they ban out Abathur, who gains a lot more momentum these days on the European server. So it's actually pretty awesome to see him back in the meta now. Yeah, he's gained so much momentum. Typically, you would see him on this Battleground, Cursed Hollow, and Towers of Doom. But other than that, he started to fall out pretty heavily. But we're seeing him almost every map. So when it comes to a Battleground where we know he's good, that first ban is always great. Also, I think this gets compounded here by the fact that last game, Tricked Esport was like, okay, dealing with Abathur pressure is such a pain, and if you don't want to actually put yourself in a spot where you have to grab a Dahako or a Global early, you can get rid of that Abathur. And one of the reasons also why Abathur is starting to make a bit more of a comeback is that Greymane is now stronger. So he's back in the meta, and with Greymane being a huge pillar in those lineups again, all of a sudden Abathur also becomes stronger because you have a fantastic copy that you can use in these fights and a great use of your symbiote head as well. So there's a couple of factors that really blend into this, blend into the hero coming back. Already Tricked going straight back into that Arthas, and this time we even have the variant. That's a lot of control in team fights with Taunt that you have here. Yep, Great counter there. The Arthas Severian, you have your setup. And then Fnatic, they grabbed their Grey main, which for a couple weeks was the main thing they were running in the first pick at all times. And they have the Anubrek, which Anubrek is probably one of the best engaged takes in the game right now, besides probably Varian. But here you really make it easy to where your opponent doesn't pick into a gold dance. That's why we grabbed the Anubrek before we saw the Varian picked up.
Another thing also that you guys are probably also wondering a bit about is what exactly is happening with Cassia here. Where's Cassia? Why is she not being played? And I talked to quite a few of the teams, and most of them agree that Cassia is actually quite strong, but it's a little bit difficult to incorporate her into drafts to get a draft that really allows her to shine. So we might see her in the course of the day, but it's definitely one of those heroes that needs to have a good setup, especially with a front line that is able to protect her. If you find yourself a little bit too far out, then all of a sudden you are in trouble. So that's something that most of the teams are worried about when they are looking at potentially drafting her.
Yeah, she's definitely a fourth, fifth pick of my eyes in terms of actual drafting. You got to make sure that your opponents have a couple of auto attackers set up. In particular, actually, coming to memory, I played Artanis the other day, and Cassia was picked as a counter.
Of course you played Artanis.
Oh my god.
Of course you did.
No, but seriously, I did nothing to that Cassia. It was the most painful game of my life.
Okay, now a question to you. Do you think that was because of Cassia or because you played Artanis?
It's because I'm on a Cassia, 100%. I do it to everyone? Oh, whatever, man. Why you gotta go out on me on HGC, man?
Hey, that was a layup, okay?
I'm going home. I'm done with this. You can cast all weekend, man.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Solo cast from here on out.
That's right.
I'm gonna sub someone in.
Let's do it. Let's pull.
Ever wanted to hear a cast with a crazy camera guy? I'm gonna make it happen.
Get David up here.
He's not even listening to us right now.
So Zagara is big in North America, and she's made some showings here in EU occasionally. But Fnatic moves into Zagara and gets the same thing that you would get with Abathur. It's just that you don't have the hatted symbiote for Greymane.
Yeah, this is basically because we wanted to show all the North American teams that Infest is not actually a good build. No. They actually played Volatile Acid. I'm just kidding. So NA played Volatile Acid last time. But yeah, Zagara is making a huge... We saw them in the Chinese scene. We see them a lot more, or her a lot more in North America right now. And Europe is starting to incorporate her in drafts a little bit. Very occasionally, I see her also appear in scrims, but this is now one of those examples where we have a bit of Zagara play. This is actually, once again, a situation where you can easily go into a Nidus. This is pretty cool, because since Nidus got changed ages ago, then all of a sudden everybody was talking about how much of utility that gets, and now you have options where you can use that.
Did you know this is coming? Look at you. You're like, oh, casually, Cassia, you know, some people are playing it, and then suddenly Cassia 5th pick?
I told you, that's the setup. That's the front line that we've been talking about. Look at it, Arthas and Varian. That's the control at the front line. There we have now Tricked picking up Cassia as well. There's a lot to talk about with all of this, especially the control that Tricked has. I've been talking about Arthas and Varian already, but you have the Malfurion for the roots, for zoning tools, the Falstad for disengage, boss control. And then on the side of Fnatic, it's really more so the idea of, first of all, trying to push and control the map a bit. And they are waiting for the last pick because I don't really think they expected Cassia necessarily.
Yeah.
So they have to think a bit about, okay, how do we play this now? Do we now switch from a potential Nidus network in a 100% more because we have 3 frontliners that we need to control in a team fight? If we do so, do we capitalize something else with it? A good AoE that we can just push onto a more? So there's a couple of thought processes for Fnatic that they have to follow up with now.
I'm kind of curious, because does solo Anubrek work against this Arthas, this Varian's hard engaged, even against a Cassia? She can poke pretty well. Her Q can proc things, so they're going to go for a second tank here, and they also pick up Leoric, which I like. One of the best ways that you can deal with the composition that Tricked has here is their wave clear is kind of mediocre in terms of trying to get an aggressive wave clear. They have Arthas that can handle a wave. They have Falstad that would probably be handling the Zagara pressure. Cassia's kind of alright, but not the greatest for actually dealing with waves. So Leoric now can just clear out an entire wave and come into fights.
Yeah, and in this setup, Europe usually has been leaning heavily towards more in general. If I'm not mistaken, North America currently plays quite a bit of Nidus network as well.
Yeah.
Correct? So we could still see both here. Fnatic could approach this with a thought process that later on in the game, they have first of all with more a bit of a disengage and also a way how they can control the fights, how they can lock opponents down and then capitalize on that. So a bit of a zoning tool as well. But they could also just simply say, listen, we have a Leoric who can split push on the lanes pretty safely, especially if you would go for Heart and Bones so that he can escape. We could see him go super crazy with old school builds, going Heart and Bones and Lingering Apparition, so that he will always be able to move out of these fights. And then you can have even a Nidus network on a Zagara and try to just split push and out-rotate your opponents. So there's a few things that Fnatic could do. Traditionally, they're the more aggressive team that wants to team fight. but we can find out on the map now what exactly they have planned for this one.
I'm actually interested to also see what Cassie is going for. Do we get Q build poke, where you're constantly just trying to slow down your opponent? At 13, you get the slows available for the Q. Do we go Finn damage, which Finn build is actually pretty insane. In terms of interrupts, there would be Maul. If Maul gets picked up, there's a Boop, and then there's a new Barek. If you can play around the Impales and the Burrow charges, Cassia can chunk out some damage.
Yeah, Cassia can have incredible damage output, and normally, especially with the level 1, the extra damage that you get there is just absolutely fantastic. So we're going to look onto the build a little bit more, of course, and I feel Cassia and Zagara are the two heroes that we have to watch out for the most in this game.
Well, new patch, new heroes. Let's get ready for game number 2. We're going to Cursed Hollow. Fnatic taking on Tricked Esport.
Game number 2, everybody. We have the 1-0 lead in the best of 5 series for Fnatic. And to the left side, we have them starting in blue once again with Quacknix on Greymane, Smexy on Lucio, Wooby on Leoric, Schwimpy on Zagara, and Breeze on Nubarak.
On the right side, in the red, we're going to have Tricked Esport. Nape will be playing the Malfurion. We're going to be having Alex Saprogi on his boy Arthas, walking out for those rotations. Crosby will be showing Cassia for the first time here in HGC Europe. Etherna will be on the Falstad, and last but not least, Rimmer on Varian.
And of course, for Cassia already on the level 1 talent, I was just talking about it, Charged Strikes has been taken, and it is the level 1 talent that is basically taken universally. It is incredibly strong, incredibly powerful to an extent where a lot of players have said they feel it's nearly OP. Especially Mena has been very, very vocal about this in talks that I had with him. So with the rest of the setups that we are currently running here, we have on the side of Zagara, the volatile asset, as expected. She's currently holding the solo lane down to the bottom. And of course, Hopelessness for Leoric, just focusing from the get-go on the Drain Hope. He has a lot of targets here that can keep him alive and where he can get the damage in on the opponent's side, with 3 melee heroes currently facing off against Fnatic.
Same time, we have 3 people on the top. The push here from Fnatic going for these turrets and draining out the ammo. Very helpful, especially when you have a Nubarak up here. You see Breeze constantly dropping out those beetles to help out with burning the ammo. And the first turret will be grabbed by Fnatic. Meanwhile, Cassie is actually the one that's going to be dealing with the Zagara in the bottom lane, which is actually a pretty solid lane for her. The trait that she has, reducing the damage on her way, I believe it's 65% on physical damage, just allows for her to get in Zagara's face and not have to deal with that pressure coming your way.
Yeah, and this is actually a really annoying thing to face. If you're an auto attacker and you have to deal with that, it just feels so bad. And one of the things that you can oftentimes do is just focus a lot more on your... Oh, well, first of all, Remmer Baller here gets caught. Now, that was a bit unfortunate for Trick. They still have heroes in the mid lane, though, to soak the experience, but that was a bit of a blow against them. After Fnatic dealt with the top lane, they're now focusing heavily on destroying the structure here in the middle. That's
why the kill is actually a bit surprising. Obviously, in the top lane, with the turret going down, the 3-man rotation is commonly going to rotate to a different lane. Rimmer should have expected that to be coming their way, especially with Wubby showing himself in that top. So, unfortunate kill there for Tricked Esport. Fnatic will take a slight lead here as 4 is hit. Now, with the 2-minute mark hitting, we should be seeing Greymane and Lucio heading over to the Giants, and they are doing so. So, we'll continue the normal basic strategy on Cursed Hollow.
The top lane is also an interesting one. Arthas is a hero where especially Alex is incredibly confident in his ability to take the solo lanes, but going up against the Leoric is never easy, and as long as we don't see those Drain Hopes missed, it should be a pretty easy movement here for Wubby. And he already goes, by the way, into Hardened Bones on the level 4. So this could really indicate that in the long run they're thinking about pushing here, especially since we now have Medusa Blades also taken for Zagara. So there's a lot of wave clear and pushing power. They could definitely aim for a split push strategy to take down Tricked Esports in a long run game and not engage too heavily in the team fights if they're not forced into them.
That's why Fnatic doing such a good job here of killing his turrets is important. Getting a lead with split push strategies is one of the best ways to be effective with them, especially when you can take out a fort in the early game. Put so much pressure on your opponent that you can start to really play the mind games with them and out-rotate them and set yourself up for plays on the boss in particular, with Greymane being in the mix-up.
Yeah. Also, the level 4 talent Cassia is pretty standard when what we're seeing currently, at least when you're looking at the European scene. I know we haven't really seen her played in any official games yet, but if you look at what's being played in Scrim is in Europe, then this is a build that you will be confronted with quite often. The Ring of Leech now taken, where you can have a lot of sustain when you're going up against blinded targets. They can, of course, either be Cassia herself or other heroes that come into play. In this particular setup, Tricked Esports hadn't really capitalized on it too much, but we have actually seen a few comms or a few ideas, even in Hero League, where people say, okay, let's just synergize with a few more heroes and try to give her even more value and put her more into the prime position to be the damage dealer at the front that has self-sustain on top of everything else.
Yeah, I really like that talent for a saving grace. If you're ever being engaged upon, you're getting low on health, you just drop a W on yourself and do basically a Kerrigan combo, if that makes sense. W into E, and your Finn damage just heals you up to about half health, and you can continue to retreat, reproc your trait. She's a really fun hero to play in that regard. She's so defensive, but offensive in the same way. So we'll watch as Crosby attempts to do that. Also, killing it off on minion waves where you can get that value. Dropping a W on a minion wave and drop E, and you're back to health, full health right away.
Yeah, now also Zagara, we're having really cool builds now unfolding in front of us. The Vicious Asset has been taken for Zagara, so that gives you a bit more value in fights too, also after a potential more. So still curious to see what they are doing with this one. As I said, you can definitely go for Nidus, but on the other hand, Fnatic is that more aggressive team that normally leans towards fighting. That's really what they excel at, that's what they love to do, to a fault at times. So now we have, again, zoning happening as up to the top another tribute spawns. Wooby is getting it. And it was mainly because Maxi did such a great job together with Breeze to zone out the opponent in their choke point. Yep. So that gave them a lot of time and put Alex in a spot where he said, hey, if I try to interrupt this, I'm probably going to die. But he might still die. He does, actually.
Gladnix will be able to slip on away there as the Thermal comes in for the possible kill down. So great Fnatic in that call, seeing even a Thermal coming in with that fall stat. Also, just to point out, you were talking about that Vicious Acid. I would say it's probably a recommended talent to get if you are facing against multiple tanks. Keeping people away from you is probably one of the best things you can do, and that slow is so impactful for doing so. So make sure to grab that if you can at home.
Yeah. At this point, also, once again, we're having Scam State. Both of the teams aiming for 10, but Fnatic has already secured a very secure lead in experience. So they are going to hit that heroic ability way before Trick does. Could even lead us into an early boss play. But we have another tribute opening up on the map, and that should be a curse against Trick Esports. I don't see any way for them to contest this.
Yeah, there's no way, especially with 10 right around the corner here. There are multiple plays for Fnatic too. They can grab this 10, start to move in for a boss, just get the curse, push out forward. Lots of opportunities for them. Wubby is going to be moving on a Therno. We're going to have a last-second fly from a Therno, which is a big deal, actually, because now with that fly being down, Fnatic can push aggressively in this bottom lane.
Nidus. They go for Nidus. Okay, so Schwimpy saying, hey boys, I'm gonna play that huge map rotation game against our opponent here. And this is now super interesting to me because it goes a little bit against what Fnatic usually does, but it's pretty cool to see since they are also a team that loves to play the macro game, but they are really more so known for their aggressive team fighting. And so this is them adapting a little bit, but as we already saw Leoric coming into play and him going for the heart and bones, it's something that we suspected and talked about since it just leads to a composition that could play around opponents very likely.
Taunt goes in, Wubby's low on health. That is Leoric falling here. Finn comes out to put damage on Breeze, but he will burrow charge away. Meanwhile, Zagara just heads bottom.
Yeah, that was a bit of a weird engagement, to be honest. All of them were really low, especially Whoopi, and engaging into that fight. It seemed they didn't have perfect vision and thought they could turn this into an easy 4 versus 3, but then it was an even fight and that turned against them fast. But now they make that play for boss, and Trick is moving up to the top lane to meet that and taking a boss themselves. But as you've already been saying, Zagara is all over the place. She has a Nidus down to the bottom lane, another one up to the top, so she's just moving through, grabbing the experience and allowing the team in the meantime to safely take the boss while Trick has to deal with the pressure.
Fnatic might have a chance here to invade and stop this from occurring with Zagara and Wubby. However, they decide not to move in. Even seeing that boss down to half health, they have put multiple members in the bottom to push in with that boss and move towards the keep wall. When you have Zagara, why not?
And this is a fantastic spot for Fnatic to be in, because that bottom fort has been eliminated earlier. Fnatic themselves still have the fort at the top lane, so the boss over there has to go through it. Fnatic can de-push with Zagara a bit, and then Schwimpy can take the Nidus and jump back down to the bot lane, which he's currently doing this. They want to trade the fort at the top lane for the keep at the bottom. That would be a huge advantage to them. Falstad has to fly back here. He cannot just simply sit up at the top.
And he has rotated out, which means to Fnatic, we need to maneuver our way to the middle fort, kill that as it's low on health, and to get Zagara back to top lane to defend that boss. Fnatic, in terms of movement, besides from that little odd moment with their Wubby in the middle lane, has just been on point with the rotations.
Yeah. And this is also a really cautious play that they just made. A lot of people look at this and they're asking themselves, hey, why didn't they push for the keep? Look how low it is already, only through the boss. They could have made that particular move. But the one reason why they actually didn't is they saw that Falstad moved away from the top lane. And they know that he can fly behind them and gust them in. And that's the one thing they wanted to avoid at all costs, because it could turn into a disaster. They would be forced into a team fight on a very close quarters, and they simply don't want to take on even talents. So instead, once they see Falstad moving away, they're saying, guys, we go into the middle, we take the safe structures there, and then we control the rest of the map. Just play it safe for now. We have a level lead, we have a talent lead, we have great map control. There's no risk to face a team fight we don't want to fight at this point.
Yeah, and just think about the devastating play that could have happened. If the Gust did come out, you're pushed into an Arthas. Arthas loves being near people. Yeah. You have Taunt available.
Cassia.
You lock down the Grey Mane. Cassie drops Fin and her Ball Lightning, which would bounce around. That would be an instant team wipe for Tricked Esports. So Fnatic had to respect that and did respond in a safe manner. So keep out an eye for those. Watch out for your opponent's combos.
It's one of those things that we oftentimes criticize with teams like Synergy that have great aggression, they gain great momentum, and then they just don't identify these threats and overstep a little bit. And this is a lesson that Fnatic learned the hard way, because they made exactly the same mistakes, being too confident, and by now they have amazing shot calling these situations where they say, guys, let's play it safe, play cautious, and make sure that we have that advantage and we hold it and don't lose it here. Overall, though, Tricked still doing a very solid job with the defense. But you can really tell that the team fights they want with this comp, they are not getting them.
And now it's all about map control. So let's think about Tricked Esport. How do you get in a spot where you can handle this pressure coming your way? One maneuver is they need to get pushed out and get rid of these nice networks. There's one in the top right corner and one to the bottom right corner that's pretty exposed that Tricked could move over and get rid of, which does effectively take away from the strength of Zagara. And they also need to get a hard engage. They actually went for one here on the third now, but Fnatic does pull back. The moment they can get a hard engage from a Mighty Gus, like we mentioned earlier, or even a Varian going for a hard taunt, they can poke somebody down, especially with the aid of Cassia.
Yeah, and Cassia on level 13 now has Seraph's Hymn taken as the 13 talent. And that's, of course, fantastic, since it basically means cooldown reduction on your blind, which synergizes, of course, incredibly well with the level 4 talent, where you have your own sustain. Once again, an attempt to fight. But look how Fnatic is playing this. They do not want to fight these fights. They know that the setup of Tricked is in team fights incredibly strong, thanks to the taunt, which comes out right now, also Arthas and Cassia. So they always just simply move away, and they have Shrimpy on those lanes, at the bottom, at the top, making sure that he gets not only experience, but also pushes these lanes out and starts to threaten structures. Fnatic understands perfectly what Tricked wants to do here, and they play around it.
And Fnatic, with a tribute in the bottom left, will also hit 16. They now have a talent lead on their opponent. It's getting to a point where Tricked just has to make a play happen. They are getting thirsty here, moving in for the engagements, even using the new spray paint meta here, taunting their opponents into a fight.
16 has dropped for Fnatic though, and that's a huge advantage. Once again, they're going in. Whoopi is low, moves away, and we have again Tricked just tickling down here. They are fighting against the talent lead. They know they need to force team fights, but it's so difficult for them to push these lanes out and maintain the even experience that they want for these battles. Fnatic is willing to take a fight on a talent advantage, and they're pushing in again. The problem is Tricked needs pressure, and to execute that pressure, they need to win the objective. But look at Zagara, she's back at the top.
Yep, they had some poke there between the Qs and a couple of Qs from Brightnix as well. It has got Tricked Esport into a bit of a low health pool. And that allows Zagara to move to the top. She's got the keep down to half health. Falstad goes in for aggressive play, but by the millisecond, Zagara jumps into the nice network and gets out.
And now Falstad is top, and Tricked needs to give up the tribute because Zagara jumped back down, turning into a 5 versus 4 with a talent advantage. Fnatic is currently outplaying Tricked. They are playing around the composition. Tricked drafted a fantastic setup for team fights, but Fnatic is not giving them a team fight at all.
Well, this may be the fight they want. Talent lead is in the favor of Fnatic. Boss is low on health. Arthas is going to be hit here by the Entomb from Wubby on the back right. We're going to have the Sound Barrier being popped. Smexy boops him off of the point, and they grab the boss.
Nice play by Smexy. Leoric is down, and Fnatic is going to look to disengage here. They are not trying to get the kills. Breeze moves away once again. Smexy with fantastic play, and already Shrimpy back at it, pushing out the top lane. But Tricked losing the boss was a huge deal. Smexy being attacked, but not grabbed by the root. We could see Quacknix maybe fall, but Breeze has his back. Gust into the corner has been used by Eternal, but they cannot lock them down, and the boss is still marching onto the keep. This is going to be the second keep in the game that falls.
Fnatic is just hoping to keep people here. If they can keep people here, the boss gets on the keep, Zagara can go top. That's 2 keeps falling with this simultaneous pressure. We're going to have also the tribute being spawned for a curse, but Fnatic taking a major lead here. It's pushing in to get damage potentially on the court.
Fnatic is absolutely playing a fantastic game here. Trick wants to force these fights. They still don't have level 16 talents. That's their biggest problem. They would love to fight a fight on even talents here at the core, but they can't. They're just pushing out the boss. Breeze is poking in. If they can achieve a kill now, Fnatic might be able to end, but it's not looking like it. Trick still waiting for that 16, but they're totally willing to fight even without that extra talent.
Going for the hard engage. The taunt is up here.
Look at the core.
OG, though, not going to be able to move in there. The core low, you mentioned it, minions here. Also a Mutalisk. Core drops down to 30%.
It's pretty crazy.
And here comes the curse. That's the worst part, Caldor.
Yeah, it's going to be a curse as well. Oh my god. Shrimpy did such a great job with Zagara to make sure that his team is ahead. And guys, I cannot stretch enough how important it is that as a team, if you have a Zagara that is playing Nidus, you understand how to engage these fights. But talking fights, yeah, this it is. Once again, sound barrier is down. Tricked has 16. They want the fight, but this is Knappe in trouble, and he is down. But the counter kill against the Nubarak.
Nubarak does fall. Quinix getting low on health. Alex Approach
Zagara finishes the game. Zagara is on the core.
That's going to be it there. It's dropping down on the core, down to 5%. The auto attacks here. Eternal goes in for the final attack. It does kill Zagara, but it does not matter. Fnatic goes up 2-0.
Great play from Fnatic. Very well thought out and just making sure that they understand their composition. And again, if you guys want to learn anything from this game that you just watched, the most important part to realize is that if you have a game where you have a Zagara on your side that plays Nidus, you need to be smart enough that you understand we do not have to teamfight this. If your Zagara is making sure that she pushes out the lanes the entire time, you do not want to engage into a team fights because you will always be at a bit of a disadvantage. But the more that you can stall your opponent in these situations, the more room you give Zagara to get that talent advantage for you, but you cannot afford to die. And Fnatic understood that perfectly. They were dancing around the tribute the entire time, they were interrupting, Zagara pushed towards the keep, and at some point Tricked was sitting there, was like, guys, we have to send Falset back. If we don't, the keep is falling. They send Falset back. Zagara comes back in and says, all right, 5 versus 4. We got this. Let's take the objective. And Tricked was just, they were completely out-rotated.
My favorite part is Fnatic actually went for that strategy after they saw Double Take picked up with limited mobility. The moment Arthas and, of course, Varian got picked up, Zagara instantly logged in. You can play that strategy, of course, if you use it as a team. Let's go ahead and get ready for game number 3. We'll be right back. This is the HGC.